Hello and welcome to Tech Deals. AMD RX 500 series graphics card launch April 2017. This is Polaris refreshed. These are updated versions of the 400 series cards which were launched in summer of 2016. Higher performance, lower power consumption, lower price. That is a win-win-win. Now let me say up front that if you currently own an RX 400 series graphics card, it really doesn't make sense to move from 400 to 500. This is an evolutionary rather than revolutionary jump. What these cards are meant for are for people who own 300 and 200 series AMD graphics card, or perhaps something older. It's also for people who own something from the 900 series or 700 series from NVIDIA. Those are now also worth considering replacing. There are 4 different RX 500 series cards launching this week. I will talk about them in turn. First up, we have the top of the line RX 580. This replaces the RX 480. There is both a 4GB and a 8GB version of this card. $199 for the 4GB, $229 for the 8GB. Yes, you heard me correctly. There is only a $30 price difference between the 4 and the 8GB card. I recommend the 8GB card. That is different than the advice I gave last year. If you watch my original 480 review where I talked about the 4 versus the 8GB, I recommended the 4. Now, 2 reasons for that. That was in 2016 when fewer games used more VRAM, and the price difference was larger. With only a $30 price difference between the 4 and the 8GB card, if you're going to buy a card for the next 3 years of use, go ahead and spend the $30, get the 8GB. You'll use it at some point, even if you don't need it today. Now, if you already have a 4GB card, or for whatever reason you find a deal or a sale, you will still be able to use a 4GB card at 1080p for years to come. You just won't be able to play at ultra detail because you'll run out of texture memory. You'll have to turn textures from ultra down to high, and then a couple years from now, eventually to medium, in order to fit the textures within 4GB of VRAM. If you get the 8GB card, that stops really being a limitation. You can then keep the textures up at high and keep the games becoming more and more beautiful each year. To take that a step further, if you have any interest in playing at 1440p rather than 1080p, you definitely want to have 8GB of VRAM because the larger resolution will load in larger textures and require more memory. Now, principally, I consider the RX 580 a 1080p graphics card. I am comfortable saying that the RX 580 will play all games on the market in 2017 at higher ultra detail at 60 plus frames per second, in many cases minimum of 60 frames a second, without any issues whatsoever. But they will also play many games at 1440p resolution. Now, Battlefield 1, Overwatch, Doom, Sniper Elite 4, some of the games that tend to favor AMD cards, those will all play at 1440p at 60 frames per second on an RX 580 8GB card. Now, will every game do that? No. Mass Effect Andromeda will not play at maximum detail at 1440p at 60 frames a second. You have to have more graphics card to do so. But many games will, and if you are willing to be reasonable on the detail settings, if high is acceptable instead of ultra details, for example, 1440p is obtainable in many games. Now that is the RX 580. What about the RX 570? Now the RX 570 is the replacement for the RX 470. Now it does come in both a 4GB and an 8GB version. Seriously, don't bother with an 8GB RX 470. If you're going to get 8GB of VRAM, you need to be on the 580. If you're going to get the 470, it's because you're trying to save some money, you found a deal, and you strictly want to play at 1080p resolution. For a starting price of $169, the 4GB RX 570 will play all current games on the market at an average of high detail at 60 plus frames per second average performance, and will do so without any issues whatsoever. Battlefield 1, Grand Theft Auto 5, Fallout 4, Hitman, Doom, Overwatch, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, all will play at high detail or better at 1080p on a $169 RX 570. Now the RX 570 is 15% slower than an RX 580 for 15% less money, so it's a value for the money. Now, if you're okay to spend another $30 to get another 15% performance, then by all means just get the RX 580. But there are reasons to consider a 570 beyond just price and performance. Now, these are both MSI Gaming X cards. The only real difference besides performance between the 580 and the 570 Gaming X card from MSI is the presence of a backplate. The 580 has one, the 570 does not. However, when you come over to ASUS, they definitely separate the 580 from the 570. The 580 has 3 fans, an 8-pin PCI-Express power connector, a heavy-duty cooling solution to let you overclock it further. It's a great card, but this does not fit into all computers. The RX 570 ASUS Republic of Gamers Strix card has a benefit that the others don't. 6-pin PCI-Express power, shorter card, 2 fans. This will fit into more computers than this will. And so if you have a pre-built machine, if you have something that doesn't have room for a large oversized card, or if your power supply only has a 6-pin PCI-Express power connector, get the RX 570. It will fit in your machine, it'll use less power, you'll have fewer issues with installation, and it will still provide excellent performance. That leads us to the RX 560, which comes in a 2GB and a 4GB card starting at $99. Please note on the RX 560s, there are versions of this card that come with and without a 6-pin PCI-Express power connector. Some of these cards will install in your machine without requiring any special power supply at all. Others, such as this factory overclocked ASUS card, will require a 6-pin connector, so do be sure to check which one you're buying before you click that checkout button. Now, what is the RX 560 designed for? Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Rocket League, Dota 2, World of Warcraft, League of Legends, Overwatch, Doom, Civilization 6. All of those games will play at 1080p resolution, high detail or better, 60 frames per second or better. Many of them will play at 120 frames per second or better. It's primarily designed for esports. That doesn't make it a bad card, but it's not designed for Battlefield 1 or Mass Effect Andromeda. That's what the 570 and 580 are designed for, but it's a much lower price at just $99 to start. The fourth card in the RX 500 series line is the all-new RX 550. There is no RX 450, so this is the brand new low-end entry-level home theater PC card from AMD. This has 8 compute units, half of the RX 560. It's $79 to start, and its primary focus is on very casual gaming and the home theater PC. Its power draw is even lower than the 560. No power connectors required. Small form factor, low profile designs will be available. Most importantly, it has all the sorts of technologies that you really need in a home theater PC card. HDMI 2.0 4K support, high dynamic range support, hardware high efficiency video codec decoding, all built into hardware. Modern standards in a low power draw card that can basically be installed in any computer. Now, I am going to do a full review of the RX 550 in a couple of days. It's going to get its own video. I will show you gaming benchmarks. It will play Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Overwatch, Dota 2, League of Legends. And if those are all you care about, an RX 550 will do just fine. But that's not really what it's meant for. It's the non-gaming applications. It's the modern technologies in an inexpensive, low-profile, low-power card that really makes the RX 550 interesting. Watch for that video coming in just a few days. Finally, no discussion of AMD graphics cards would be complete without talking about the software that AMD provides. The software in the past year has improved tremendously. Performance on the 400 series cards has risen by as much as 20% since launch, thanks to the improved software that comes with the RX series. There are also some other features which recently launched. The Radeon Relive software is capture and streaming software. This did not come with the 400 series cards at launch. You can now do the same thing that NVIDIA provides with ShadowPlay. Low power consumption, low graphics card load, video capture, and live streaming of your gameplay. I have recently used this software, and you'll see some upcoming benchmarks recorded with the Relive software. It works very well for either recording your gameplay or live streaming. There's also a technology called Radeon Chill. What is Chill? Chill basically reduces the power consumption and reduces the frame rate if it goes beyond the speed of your monitor. This is not the same as VSync or FreeSync. Instead, what this does is actually lowers the power consumption of your graphics card if the frame rate is not necessary. Many games are supported in Chill, such as League of Legends and Dota 2. If the action on the screen does not require a higher frame rate, it will dynamically lower your frame rate, lowering your power consumption and saving you on electricity. Finally, I want to bring you one more slide. This shows all 4 cards and their relative performance to the older generation of graphics cards. Now, this is based on AMD's own testing, but let me just tell you that it's reasonable and accurate. The RX 580 is about 1.5 times the performance of an R9 380X. The RX 570 is almost 3 times the performance of an R7 370. The RX 560 is double the performance of an R7 360. And the RX 550 is up to, that's an important term there, 5 times the performance of integrated graphics in Overwatch. I will be showing you live Overwatch gameplay, integrated graphics versus the RX 550. I will also show you how well the 550 compares to the GT 730 and the R7 240, both cards of which I have already reviewed in the past. Finally, FreeSync is worth discussing. FreeSync is an excellent technology that does not cost nearly as much as G-Sync, which is the NVIDIA solution. FreeSync monitors start at just $120. There are several options you can see here on the screen. I will link to them all in the video description below. This gives you more fluid gameplay, less screen tearing, and less input lag. Yes, you can get rid of screen tearing by turning on VSync, but if you do so, you get input lag. FreeSync gets rid of both screen tearing and keeps input lag to a minimum. So there you have the AMD RX 500 series graphics card launch for April 2017. The 570 and the 580 are available immediately. Links in the video description below to both Amazon and Newegg for all of those cards. Please go check them out. The RX 550 will be launching in 2 days, and the RX 560 will be launching in early May. I will update the links in the video description below when those launch. Like this video if you like it, share it with your friends if you loved it. Remember to subscribe to my channel with that big huge button directly below the video. Questions and comments in the comment section, and as always, check out my video description. Links to Amazon and Newegg for all of the graphics cards mentioned in this video will be down there. Please check those out. Furthermore, live game performance videos on all these cards will be published over the next few days and weeks. So check out the video description below to those playlists, and be sure to subscribe to my channel to be notified as they come out. The first one I'm publishing is Grand Theft Auto 5. It's a long, in-depth look at how well these cards work on multiple generations of processors. I have 20 games in total already recorded and filmed, and those will be published over the next few weeks. If you have any specific questions, that's what the comment section is for. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.